You keep waiting for luck like it's a bus that's running late. But what if there was never a bus coming at all? What if everything you've been told about luck has quietly been holding you back? Because the truth most people avoid is this: luck is often just a label people give to outcomes they didn't have the discipline to study. From a stoic point of view, luck is not something you chase. It's something that disappears the moment you take full responsibility for your life. The Stoics didn't sit around hoping for favorable outcomes. They focused on what they could control with absolute intensity. And once you understand that, something shifts inside you. You stop waiting and you start building. There's a dangerous comfort in believing that success belongs to the lucky. It protects you from the uncomfortable truth that your current situation is largely shaped by your own repeated choices. Epictetus taught that some things are in our control and some things are not. And confusion between the two is where most suffering begins. When you blame luck, you hand over control to something invisible and unpredictable. But when you focus on your actions, your habits, your reactions, you take that control back. And suddenly, life becomes less about chance and more about direction. Think about how often people say they got lucky. They say it about wealth, about relationships, about opportunities. But what they don't see are the countless small decisions that led to that moment. The discipline when no one was watching, the sacrifices that weren't posted online, the consistency that felt boring and repetitive. From the outside, it looks like luck. From the inside, it's structure. It's preparation meeting opportunity. And the Stoics understood this deeply. They didn't try to predict the future. They trained themselves to be ready for it. The problem with chasing luck is that it keeps you passive. You wait for the right moment, the right connection, the right opportunity. But while you're waiting, someone else is preparing. Someone else is sharpening their skills, building their resilience, training their mind to handle pressure. Marcus Aurelius wrote reminders to himself constantly, not because he was weak, but because he understood that the mind needs discipline, just like the body. He didn't rely on luck to lead an empire. He relied on control over his thoughts and actions, and that's where real power comes from. Most people underestimate how much control they actually have. They think their life is happening to them, instead of realizing it's responding to them. Your habits shape your identity, and your identity shapes your outcomes. If you wake up every day waiting for motivation or a lucky break, you'll stay stuck. But if you wake up and act, regardless of how you feel, you begin to create momentum. And momentum doesn't need luck. It feeds itself. The more you move, the more doors appear. Not because of luck, but because you're finally in motion. There's also something deeper that Stoicism teaches. Your perception of events matters more than the events themselves. Two people can face the same situation, and one calls it bad luck, while the other sees it as a challenge. That difference in perspective changes everything, because the one who sees opportunity will act, and the one who sees misfortune will retreat. Over time, those small reactions build completely different lives, so what you call luck is often just perspective in disguise. Another hard truth is this: people often use luck as an excuse to avoid accountability. It's easier to say, "I didn't get lucky," than to say, "I didn't prepare enough." But Stoicism doesn't allow for that kind of thinking. It demands that you look at your life honestly, without excuses. Not to blame yourself, but to empower yourself. Because once you accept responsibility, you gain the ability to change things. And that's where your real strength begins. You don't need perfect conditions to start. That's another illusion tied to luck, the idea that everything has to line up before you make a move. But life rarely works that way. Conditions are almost never perfect. There will always be uncertainty, risk, discomfort. The Stoics embraced this. They trained themselves to act even when things were unclear, because they understood that waiting for perfect conditions is just another way of staying stuck. There's also a hidden advantage in letting go of luck. You become more resilient. When things go wrong, you don't fall apart because you weren't depending on chance in the first place. You adapt, you adjust, you keep moving. Seneca believed that difficulty is not something to fear, but something that reveals your strength. And when you stop blaming luck for your setbacks, you start learning from them instead. Every obstacle becomes training. Every failure becomes information. The more you rely on luck, the more powerless you feel. But the more you rely on discipline, the more confident you become. Because discipline is predictable, it's repeatable. It gives you a sense of control in a world that often feels chaotic. And over time, that control compounds. Small, daily actions, done consistently, create results that look like luck to everyone else. And here's where it gets even more powerful. When you fully detach from the idea of luck, you stop fearing failure the same way. Because failure is no longer a sign that luck wasn't on your side. It becomes part of the process. You experiment, you learn, you adjust. You stop taking things personally and start treating them strategically. And that shift alone can completely change your life. What most people don't realize is that creating your destiny isn't about making one big decision. It's about making thousands of small ones. Every day, you're either moving closer to the life you want or further away from it. And those small choices don't feel important in the moment, but over time, they define everything. The Stoics didn't focus on grand outcomes. They focused on daily actions, because they knew that destiny is built in the ordinary moments, not the dramatic ones. And once you truly understand this, something inside you becomes quieter but stronger. You stop chasing external validation. You stop comparing your path to others. You stop looking for signs of luck. Instead, you focus on what you can do right now. One action, one decision, one step forward. And that's how you begin to take ownership of your life, in a way most people never do. You don't need luck. You need clarity, discipline, and the willingness to act even when it's uncomfortable. Because at the end of the day, destiny isn't something you find, it's something you build piece by piece through what you choose to do today. And the moment you truly accept that, you also lose the ability to lie to yourself. Because if luck is no longer the reason for where you are, then you're forced to confront something far more powerful. You are. Your patterns, your habits, your decisions, your level of discipline. That realization can feel heavy at first, almost uncomfortable, because it removes every excuse you've been quietly holding on to. But at the same time, it gives you something most people never fully experience: control. Not control over everything that happens, but control over how you respond, how you prepare, and how you move forward, regardless of circumstances. What you begin to notice is that people who seem lucky tend to put themselves in positions where opportunities can actually reach them. They don't isolate themselves in comfort. They don't avoid risk. They show up consistently, even when results are slow. They build skills, they build relationships, they build resilience. So when an opportunity appears, it doesn't feel random. It connects to everything they've been doing behind the scenes. What looks like a sudden breakthrough is often the result of quiet preparation that nobody saw. And this is where most people get it wrong. They admire the outcome, but ignore the process that created it. There's also a discipline in how you think that most people overlook. Stoicism isn't just about controlling actions, it's about training your mind to stop drifting into useless thoughts. Worrying about luck, comparing your path to someone else's, replaying what didn't work. None of that moves you forward. It drains your focus. It weakens your ability to act. When you learn to cut off those thoughts and redirect your attention to what you can do right now, you begin to operate with a level of clarity that feels almost unfair. Because while others are stuck overthinking, you're moving. And movement is everything. Not perfection, not certainty, movement. One of the biggest lies people believe is that they need to have everything figured out before they begin. But clarity often comes after action, not before it. You take a step, you learn something, you adjust, and then you take another step. That's how direction is created, not through waiting, but through doing. The Stoics didn't wait for confidence. They built it through repeated action. And over time, that action turns into identity. You no longer feel like someone who tries. You become someone who does. There's another shift that happens when you stop believing in luck. You become less emotional about outcomes, not in a cold or detached way, but in a controlled, grounded way. You do your best, you execute, and then you accept whatever result comes without letting it shake your foundation. This is something Marcus Aurelius practiced constantly. He reminded himself that external results are not fully in his control, but his effort always is. And when you anchor yourself to effort instead of outcome, you become far more consistent, because you're no longer riding the emotional highs and lows of success and failure. Most people quit not because they lack ability, but because they rely too much on how they feel in the moment. If they feel motivated, they act. If they don't, they stop. But feelings are unstable. They change constantly. Stoicism teaches you to act based on principles, not emotions. You decide who you want to be, and then you show up as that person, regardless of how you feel that day. And that's what creates real progress. Not bursts of motivation, but steady, disciplined action over time. You also start to see setbacks differently. Instead of labeling them as bad luck, you begin to ask better questions. What can I learn from this? What can I adjust? What did this reveal about me? That mindset turns every obstacle into feedback instead of failure. And the more feedback you gather, the sharper you become. While others are discouraged and stopping, you're adapting and improving. And over time, that difference becomes massive. Another thing that changes is your relationship with time. When you believe in luck, you often feel rushed. You want things to happen quickly, almost instantly. But when you focus on discipline and control, you start to understand that real progress takes time. And instead of fighting that, you use it. You become patient, but not passive. You keep working, even when results are slow, because you understand that consistency compounds. Every day adds something, even if you can't see it yet. And this is where most people fall short. They underestimate the power of small actions done repeatedly. They're looking for big moments, big changes, big breakthroughs, but those things are rare. What's common are small decisions made every single day, and those decisions either build you or break you over time. The Stoics focused on daily discipline because they knew that greatness is not created in one moment. It's built quietly, step by step. You begin to realize that creating your destiny is not dramatic. It's not loud. It's not flashy. It's often boring. It's doing the same things over and over again, with focus and intention. It's choosing growth over comfort, again and again. It's staying consistent when no one is watching, when no one is clapping, when there's no immediate reward. And that's the part most people don't want to hear, because it requires patience, effort, and discipline without constant validation. But the reward for that mindset is something most people never experience. A sense of control over your life that doesn't depend on outside circumstances. You stop feeling like life is happening to you, and you start feeling like you're shaping it. You become more confident, not because everything is perfect, but because you trust yourself to handle whatever comes next. And once you reach that point, luck becomes irrelevant. Not because life becomes easy, but because you've built something stronger than luck. You've built yourself. At some point, you have to make a decision that most people avoid. You either keep believing your life is shaped by luck, or you accept that it's shaped by what you do consistently every single day. Because once you strip away the illusion of luck, what's left is powerful and uncomfortable at the same time. It's you, your standards, your discipline, your willingness to act when it's hard, when it's boring, when no one is watching. This is where your destiny is actually built. Not in big moments, but in the quiet choices you make over and over again. The Stoics understood this deeply. They didn't wait for life to hand them meaning. They created it through action, through control, through mastering themselves. And the same is available to you right now. You don't need better timing. You don't need perfect conditions. And you definitely don't need luck. You need to decide that from this moment forward, you will take ownership of your direction and move with intention, no matter what stands in your way. So if this message hit you, don't just listen and move on. Act on it. Start small, but start today. Choose one thing you've been delaying, one habit you know you need to fix, one action that moves your life forward, and commit to it. And if you're serious about building that mindset, go ahead and subscribe to PsychoVest, because this is where we train discipline, clarity, and real mental strength. Not motivation that fades, but principles that stay. Share this with someone who keeps waiting on luck, and drop a comment below. What's one action you're taking today to start creating your own destiny?